I am excited for this episode as I am for all our others, but this is a really relevant episode. We get so many calls to the Smart Center for SM, but we also get a lot of calls. We tend to attract a lot of families with children, teens, and adults with what we call comorbidities, coexisting conditions, in addition to being perhaps a timid child, where the typical treatment of SM is often not as effective, or the child is stuck, not making the progress, and we find out that there's coexisting conditions. There's something else going on that affects the child's social communication, and that's our job. We're all about understanding SM from a whole person social communication standpoint, rather than treat to speak. So excited to talk about this episode. It is called, Is it SM, Autism, or Both? So we get so many calls. We see so many kids that are either diagnosed with SM, but have autism, and maybe don't even have SM, but they may have both. Or they're diagnosed with autism, but they have SM. And these kids are often funneled through the school system, perhaps inappropriately. They're not getting their accommodations and interventions appropriate. They're missing a lot. And these poor kids are struggling year after year after year. And the goal is obviously to figure this out early. So with that said, I'm excited about this episode. What about you? How are you feeling about this? Because you're one of the main clinicians. You're our director of counseling and You're the director of counseling and assessments. And so you are the primary doctor that would be fielding these cases that come to the Smart Center and often doing the testing. You're certified in autism testing with the ADOS. This is something that's a strong focus for you. And in addition to SM, of course. So thought.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this episode because I think this is very common, like you're saying. And I think that it's very needed for us to kind of discuss this a little bit further, because I think even in the field in general, I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around the comorbidity between SM and autism. And I think that we get many different evaluations where people share with us, an inconclusive autism evaluation because they were nonverbal during the testing, and they go years without potentially that diagnosis, and then we're able to kind of do a reevaluation and confirm that or dispute that. So I think it kind of goes in both ways, right? Like, so if you're curious about it and you just want more clarity, we're here to provide more of that. But oppositely, if you had received a diagnosis and it just doesn't feel right in your heart, we're also able to reevaluate and kind of dive deeper into is it really just the selective mutism piece, or is it both? So I think that, as all of you are listening, maybe think about which category do you feel like you fall into. And we do hope that this episode is really helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure. Obviously, most of our listeners know about what SM is, but there's going to be some newbies, people that are just coming across this diagnosis of SM. And does my child have SM? Or my child does have SM, but is there something else going on? We have so many episodes on the whys of SM, which is a huge part of what we do, because we view SM, as you know, as a social communication anxiety. I do not like the name selective mutism. I think it really gives a false pretense to what this is, and it makes people focus on mutism and hence getting a kid to speak. And that's frustrating, because if they could, they would. And the key is to figure out, why are they not speaking? Why are they having difficulty with social communication? And address it from the whys and understand the stages of social communication, so we can at least start at a baseline to move them. So we have episodes on the bridge, the whys of SM. Welcome you to listen to it, the comorbidities. But this episode, we're going to focus a lot on SM and autism. And more are we seeing this. And kids, people, and families are coming out of the woodwork because they're realizing, whoa, I think my child may have both. And I really want to understand. I think we need to talk about the core features of both SM and autism and kind of start there. So let's talk about the core features of SM, which of course I just talked about, being a social communication anxiety disorder. And it's not willfulness to not speak, but these children, teens, and adults are struggling to communicate, and they're mute in at least one setting of their life. But you want to review the core features of SM?
Yeah, I think that, Some of the core features of SM, stem from the fact that there's clear differences in individuals in various settings. So in more comfortable settings, they might be more vibrant, they might be more expressive, they might be more elaborative. And then in other settings where they're not as comfortable, like in school or real world settings or with unfamiliar people, depending on the child, they might shut down, right? So there's definitely a big difference in various settings of how much they communicate and what that communication looks like. I also would say that a lot of the reason for why they shut down stems from the anxiety component. So they shut down when they sense an expectation for speech or they sense a different expectation from someone else. And so that is one of the reasons why in those type of settings they shut down. But again, from many other episodes too, there's various whys. So there could be, underlying reasons for why someone does shut down. But
Like
again, you
sensory
see that
issues, being loud.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly. Yeah. But you just definitely like see that difference there. And so yeah, so I think that also like there's a piece of them struggling with initiation, elaboration, expression. So sometimes, it's not just about speaking, but also just kind of breaking down the amount of speech. We always say like on our social communication bridge, it's like stage 3 plus, right? So like thinking about why, someone shuts down, or even when they aren't as comfortable, right? They might be fully elaborative at home, but then in school, maybe they do progress to verbal, but maybe just more one word answers. So just being aware of that too.